March Hell's Kitchen Land Use Committee meeting of Community Board 4. This is our first time having a meeting in this room, so it's really hot. It's really warm. Internet is wonky, so space is tight. We'll get it all sorted out in the upcoming months. But if there's any problems, write them down and give them to me at the end of the meeting, and we'll help resolve them later during the meeting. So this is a hybrid meeting. The hybrid policy can be found on the Community Board website. Board members attending, board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability and/or extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded. Tonight we have what looks like a nice short agenda, but it's a heavy agenda. We have a draft scope of work for Site K at 418 11th Avenue and Site 3HB at 400 11th Avenue. That is a state GPP being brought forward by ESD, and the team is here to do a presentation for us. And then the second agenda item is just a presentation and update on the status of the West 47th Street building and the special permit there. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to tonight's agenda?
Not to tonight's agenda, make an announcement about something you want to consider for next
Next month's agenda.
Oh, Irish Art Center Phase 2.
Irish Art Center Phase 2.
We've been for them a long time, so
that is very happy news.
yes, good.
And it is. Yeah, and if it was only on next week at St. Patrick's Day, we might have been faster. All right. Before we begin, let's go around the room with introductions of the committee members, please. I'm Paul Devlin, co-chair with
Rachel Lee, co-chair.
Brian Collins, ZBA, committee member.
I'm a public member and president of Hell's Kitchen Alliance.
Aaron Hoffman, committee member.
Brian Weber, public member.
John Danielle, member.
Kevin Collins, member.
Sandra Miller, member.
George Ducha, member and co-chair of Housing and Human Services.
excellent. We have with us tonight the applicant team from ESD. A reminder for folks, this is a draft scope of work we'll be reviewing as a reminder of the process. Major developments go through an environmental impact study. This document says what they study in the study. So this is our opportunity to make sure that we include anything that we want studied into the study. So we're going to see a presentation, and then we'll have a conversation about what is it that we think they should study that they're not saying they should study. And then we're going to ask them to study it. Then we'll get the draft environmental impact statement, and we'll say, you didn't study the things we asked you to study. And then they'll give us the final EIS statement, and we'll say, you didn't include the things that we wanted you to include. But this is our biggest opportunity to get included in the environmental impact statement, what we want to have as an understanding of the project.
That's very studious of you.
Yes.
Can we go to the full screen of the room?
No. Oh, maybe, but
Okay.
one may be able to, but
No, just that it's gonna record odd if we don't have the full screen.
I think it is full screen here, but
It's
in the
just-
Oh,
screen
fine.
No, it's filming.
You can always hit
Technology.
under view speaker, and that will give you the speaker view.
Working on it.
You gotta go to.
it is not.
Yeah, it's just the,
Yeah.
that,
It's not working.
The room screen, Janine, only shows the community board 4 logo in the center of the screen.
I just want to let you know that I was
Doesn't
concerned
show
how it recorded, but I think it's gonna record.
it's
Oh,
highlighting you basically on the screen.
Oh, so you can't see.
I think we have early technologies.
Oh, actually, yeah, here. Please continue. This is the less mission critical aspect.
Just so we continue the conversation. It's very difficult when other people speak in the room, the audience, Zoom, because the owl picks up every voice.
Yeah.
So side conversations are picked up by the owl, so it's helpful to have one person speaking at a time only. These two sites are Site K. We have seen a number of iterations over time, part of our affordable housing plan, part of the Hudson Yards rezoning. we had actually had conversations with ESD about including the adjacent site as part of a general project plan for this development. So we are grateful that ESD is sort of following some of our guidance on how to develop these sites in connection with one another. And Kevin, to your point that you often raise, just, yeah, I'll wait because people are paying attention to that. To your point, Kevin, that you often make in these discussions about large developments is the cumulative impact. And by taking these two sites together, we are going to see a cumulative impact of the two sites being developed cohesively. And so I think that we take great pride in that we have been pushing for that. So that's a lot of that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the ESG team.
I think Janine's gonna.
Janine, can you pull up the slide presentation?
Yeah, I'm
Let's see if I
sure.
can see.
Yeah, hopefully that comes up now on here.
Okay, can you all see it?
Perfect.
Excellent.
So Paul kind of said 90% of what I was gonna say, sometimes. It makes my life a lot easier. Again, I appreciate the committee for allowing me inviting us to present on the next milestone, Site K.
Would you like to sit over, like, stand over here?
Sorry.
Grab a little-
I'm sorry, I don't know. Angel Santana, with Vice President for Real Estate at ESD Community Relations. I have Gabriella Green here, who's VP Real Estate at ESD, and also Ethan Sand, who's Project Manager for the project. So just going to back up a little bit. I know you talked a little bit about including 3HB in here, but we also, this actually goes back to conversations we had with the community board about even activating Site K. There was discussions about this way before 2023. It was part of the housing plan for the community board. We had discussions about what we can do on that site, and we did had some discussions before the RFP. And I'll talk a little bit about Site K in just a sec, but you all received the draft scope of work. That draft scope of work, to just point out, it has very illustrative massing. It has a generic program. We're working that through with developers. But we wanted to include as part of the draft scope of work because it came to us after we designated the developers. Some of the developers came to us. They own that adjacent site, wanted to include it as one piece of a GPP. We have to do further, have further conversations with them and also some of our government agencies to see if we can move that forward. But we didn't want to impact the draft scope of work for Site K and pause that in order to figure out the VHP component. So what you have is very generic, but we included it because of, as Paul mentioned, cumulative impacts is going to be a thing as well. So we want to include it as part of it and see if we can usher them both forward. Janine, you could go to the next slide. And the purpose of today's briefing is to just talk a little bit about the location for folks who don't, are not familiar with it, and provide some background, discuss the purpose and need of the project, go a little bit into the development program, provide like a high level overview of the draft scope of work, the analysis areas that we're going to be looking into, and then discuss the next steps. Next slide. So location and background. So I know most folks are familiar with these sites, but for the public and those who are not, Site K, as you can see here, is between 35th and 34th, between 11th and Hudson Boulevard West. That site has a permitted 24 FAR, and there's also a mechanical ventilation shaft for the MTA, which is associated with the 7 train line. 3HB is just to the south of that. That's between 35th and, was it 34th and 35th. And that's between 11th Avenue and the Bella Absent Park. That site has 2 easements associated with it for Amtrak, as well as the MTA. That's the escalators for the 35th Street entrance. That site, the FAR permit is 33. As you guys mentioned, as Paul mentioned actually earlier today, this whole area was part of the rezoning in 2005 to create a dense mixed use district. Shortly after that, a year later, the GPP for the Javits Convention Center's expansion was completed, envisioned a hotel on the Site K site. Since then, both sites haven't really materialized, been vacant for quite some time. So we're kind of here to activate those sites. As we talk with you guys about this, I know it's been included as part of like a very high density district, this corridor of 11th Avenue. And I think this is a worthwhile project for us to kind of like usher in. And then just wanted to note that the potential of including 3HP could provide up to 2,000 additional units to what we had initially envisioned. Next slide. So the purpose and need, I feel like we've been talking about this for quite some time about housing crisis in New York City has been exacerbated in the last few years. We think that this is a huge tool to alleviate that burden. Want to also revitalize the area. We have, again, 2 vacant sites that haven't really materialized of yet. And also, provide that tourism infrastructure for the Javits Center with a flagship hotel across the street. We, again, talked with the community board about this previously, about including this in, activating the sites in an RFP. We designated, I think we put an RFP out in July 2023, designated the Hudson Boulevard Collective in 2024. And now we have this potential site of 3HP, which is already kind of like ready for development. And we think that we can actually increase residential density on the area rather quickly because it's already kind of like set for development. Next slide. And the project team consists of the Moynihan Group, BXP, Urbane, BRP. Epics Collaborative is on as the architect and also the master planner. And then there's a couple of other consultants who are working on this project. You can see here.
You're deeply in initials. Could you just say who these top line people are?
What was that?
You're in initials.
Who are they?
The Moynihan Group
Yeah.
is one of the owners. They also are partial owner of the 3HB site. BXP, formerly known as Boston Properties, but they now go by BXP. And also, again, owner of both sites. Urbane is a small MBE firm that actually just has 1% of the Site K project, but they really focus on community facilities and streetscape and street level activation. So they have a very targeted role on the Site K team. And then BRP is another third owner of the Site K project, and they are primarily the affordable housing expert on that. Have many housing developments throughout New York City.
Thank you so much to give her the word salad for a second.
Go to the next slide, please. So this is just you can read it, but it's just a very high level view of the program for both sites. I just want to specifically call out the number of units here that we're looking at. So you can see a Site K of 1,550 units, 465 of which would be affordable. Just to note that this would comply with 45X. Again, in terms of working with the community board on that RFP solicitation, we did note, one, the community board's housing plan, and also two, we discussed the fact that there is that 130 AMI missing middle in this community board that you all have like mentioned to us over the past couple of years. So we wanted to make sure we included that. So there is a 485X, 25% affordable, and then you have this 5% that's at 130 AMI. And that would actually apply to 3HB as well, as we're discussing that with, again, development team. So if you see here with site 3HB, 2,400 units, 30% affordable, 720 of them. And again, the hotel will be on Site K. You can go on to the next slide, actually. Illustrative massing. I know everyone loves illustrative massing, but you all can see here. One thing I want to point out is that when it comes to the residential lobby, that's actually facing Bella Abza Park. That's down in yellow there. And as you can see, the cultural institution fitness center. You can see a little bit of the mechanical. It has to be part of the development of the mechanical ventilation shaft at the MTA, as well as let me see. Sorry, I'm just trying to reach over here. Hard to see from this side, so I'm blinded. But anyway, so you can see the massing here. We have another massing. If you want to go to the next slide for another angle. Thank you. So this is the site southeast angle here. You can see the entrance for the cultural facility is actually facing the subway line, which is the 35th Street entrance. And you can see a little bit of a visual of the hotel, which will be facing the Javits Center. Go on to the next slide. Right, so streetscapes improvements. You might have seen this rendering in the RFP that went out. I think they had with their solicitation, they have put this out there. Not really want to focus on like the building itself, because I know that there's been discussions with the community board about the, not really liking the full glass buildings here, but want to give a little bit of a visual of the streetscapes, just like what would actually happen once we can activate this site. We can go on to the next slide. Just skip ahead.
So the southern part is 34th Street, right? Correct.
That's 35th. What you're looking at is
Oh, I'm
35th.
sorry, we're
Go
looking
back,
at
go back.
site- that was site K.
They're on
Okay.
site.
Yes, it's just
Okay, site K.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you can see also there's a, proposed illuminated billboard there on the mechanical building here,
On 36th Street, yeah.
facing the Java Center. That's the NC
1136, yeah.
Right, not permitted, not.
would be. You go to the next slide. This gives you a little bit of a visual of like the streetscape improvements that, this is pending further discussions with New York City DOT. But you can see some, kind of a vision of having a shared street, more plantings, make it more of a pedestrian oriented feel. Also make it more residential, like you have individuals who will live in these buildings who will be able to walk right into Bella Absa Park. So just further discussions that the development team needs to have with DOT and ourselves as well. But this is what we envision, more of a greenery, open space, shared street.
But there is still through traffic on the shared street.
Yes.
Right, whatever it is.
You can go to the next slide. This is a little bit more in line with what's currently being envisioned. Again, I know glass structures, in the sky was a little bit of a concern for folks. Development team has come back with more residential windows. You can see the step down approach as well to kind of break up the massing there. Different feel in terms of a texture where it's more in line with what historically has been developed in New York. This will get further refined, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys had the latest rendering as opposed to what was put together as part of the RFP. Go to the next slide. So draft scope of work, as Paul had mentioned, this is kind of like the first step in this process for the environmental review. We issued a lead agency notice back in January 30th, noting that ESD intends to be the lead agency on environmental review. That process would include us studying the different various areas to see what potential environmental impacts would occur and what mitigation measures could be put in place to alleviate that. And that would help inform our decision-making moving forward and the creation of a general project plan down the line. We did the environmental assessment form, determined that there will be a number of significant adverse impacts, so we would need to do a full environmental impact statement. That public scoping meeting is kind of like that first step, as Paul mentioned, to discuss the different various areas and kind of discuss the methodologies that we are looking at. You go to the next slide. Again, I know a lot of folks here are very familiar with this, but again, for the public and others, these are the various chapters that we're looking at here that we determine we'll need to have further studies. Go to the next slide. Just pulling out three in particular. When it comes to land use, zoning, and public policy, we're looking at land use compatibility, zoning trends, public policy. And when it comes to community facilities, we're going to analyze public tools, libraries, early childhood programs, things that are impacted potentially by this new population. And then also when it comes to transportation, we're looking at traffic, transit options, pedestrian safety, and parking. Go to the next slide. And just quickly on next steps and kind of where we are right now. We issued the lead agency notice back in January 30th. March 4th, we released the draft scope of work, which you all received. March 9th, we had a brief meeting with similar presentation with leadership of the community board as well as local elected officials to provide them the same information. The scoping meeting is actually happening next Wednesday. It's a virtual meeting from 6 to 8. That notice the community board has received as well. That's an opportunity for folks who want to come to the hearing to provide a verbal comment. If you can't make it and want to submit comments in writing, you can do that as well. We have a 30-day comment period that happens subsequently after that, which ends on April 20th. Individuals could either submit that comment via email, or they can mail it to ESD's office. And then we're anticipating that we'll have a final draft scope by the end of this year, and then subsequently we'll have a draft EIS and a draft GPP. Go to the next slide. And this is just the information for those who want to provide comments via email or, and again, the deadline is 5 o'clock on Monday, April 20th. And then that's it.
Great. I have a couple of questions, so I'll get started and we'll go around the room. All right. Can you tell us what is the residential FAR for each building? You said 24 and 33.
And so that's the permitted FAR,
That's
that's
the map.
18 for site K and then for 3HP is 30.
That's what we're analyzing now is 30. They don't, as Angel pointed out, 3HB is less developed as a program for the project. And so we're studying of the largest residential that we think we would really do there. It does not exceed the current permitted overall FAR, but it changes that.
So it could be up to 30 FAR residential.
That is what the study is for, yes.
But I think you need to know just one thing, the baseline. So the reason that the community board came back and said, do the rezoning or changes here through GPP is because the FAR, residential FAR is limited at 6 in the entire left avenue corridor from 3.4 to 3.9. That was part of Hudson Yard's strategy to really promote commercial development here, which has been limited at best, right? So from 2015, we've asked that 6 FAR residential cap be lifted. And the first plan said to 12, right? And now with the FAR cap lifted, we put it as a very high density residential zone. So that's the general underpinning of this.
Yep.
That we were that the developers prohibited from building greater than 6 FAR residential in the highest density zones mapped in the city. The site 3HB is FAR 33. That is the highest density for commercial residential anywhere in the city on our 4 corners.
And the reason I'm asking that question is because this is going to be the first time in the state of New York, let alone the city of New York, that we have residential over 12 FAR of anything. So, by we
Paul? Paul, can you hear me? Sorry about that. Your volume went down. We can't hear you. Your sound went off. Yeah, can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Oh, you can hear me many
Yeah.
times now.
Yeah, now there was an echo, but now I can hear you. You're fine now. Oh, you're on mute again.
Doesn't work because we can't echo.
Okay, well, I can hear you now.
Yeah, but we get an echo. Oh, shit.
Hold on.
Okay. If you put one on mute, would that work better?
I'm trying.
Still can't hear anything. Maybe if you check under the audio, the little caret, and choose again the owls. Maybe they got disconnected. Or maybe if it doesn't work, try jumping off and on again.
Neen, can you hear us? Can you hear them?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
How about now?
It echoes when you do that.
Yeah, but I think I hear an echo. There's an echo in the background.
Well, right.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
One instead of.
Hold on, let me,
Right.
let's see.
This
Speaker,
one was muted. This one was muted. When we unmuted and both echoed, mute this one, speak on this one and mute this one, it echoes.
On that one? Okay, let me raise the volume and see if that's on and off.
Literally technology.
I know, exactly. How about now? Can you say something, Deneen?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
I think we can kind of communicate the questions as we get conversations like that. Online, okay.
Can you hear, you're on YouTube right now listening?
Here, like 10 seconds after what's it called?
You're hearing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna give this a go.
Okay.
We have a list circulating. Where'd that list go? We have a list circulating of tips for Janine and Jesse to address tomorrow.
Yes, please.
So if you have thoughts on changes that need to be made, let's write them down, and Jesse and Janine will retest all the system tomorrow. Appreciate everyone's patience on this. All right, so back to the statement I was making before. I think I got chopped off at 12 FAR. So because this is the first time that the state and the city is going to see any residential over 12 FAR, this is going to be precedent setting. And so I'm really pushing for us to consider all of the things that we considered in the discussion about the removal of the cap as part of our dialogue we're having now. We had specifically talked about things like anything above the 12 FAR, that additional FAR has a higher percentage of affordability and not at the 30% threshold that is pretty common with the 12 FAR and lower. So we are going to have some more conversations about that, which is why I raised the question, what is the FAR in 30? We're happy about because it's housing, but we're concerned about because of the affordability components of that. So we just want to set precedents for other people. The second question I have is on, did we look at the heights of the buildings to the south. We know there's not much to the north, but we have always pushed for tapering down towards Hell's Kitchen and towards Chelsea from Hudson Yards, and tapering down as we get closer to the Hudson River. So are there heights of neighboring blocks that you could tell us?
I don't know the adjacent heights. It is down from Hudson Yards in general, but to specifics, we'll have to get back to you.
And the proposed heights here, are those in that table?
Yeah.
So,
The information is definitely all in the draft scope of work. I just don't.
no, but it's in the table.
Yeah, it is.
So
Was that gonna be your question when I come to?
it's not a question, I mean, what heights? Because I'm a bit of a height freak, I like this stuff.
Could we go back to that slide, Janine? The table?
Passing diagrams. show
Yeah,
that.
okay, but
The massing diagram show the heights. It's,
Trying to get.
So one of the buildings, 900 feet, the other one is close to 800 feet. Yeah,
900.
so, yeah, so there's 3 Hudson Boulevard, 3 HB is about 900 feet, and the other one steps down to 800 feet. For context, the building that has the edge in it, the observation deck, that's like 1,300 feet.
Go back further.
The building
No, that's enough.
to the immediate,
No, go forward one, that one. So
There we go.
the site on this, and I'm gonna point, sorry for people not in the room, but these blocks are the ones that we're concerned about. What are the heights in those? And how do we taper down as we move towards Hell's Kitchen and go north? And then my other concern is as we move from east to west, we always push to taper down as we go closer to the river. So 900 to 100 is not really
No, one of them is about 1,300 feet.
at Hudson Yards, but not in the immediately adjacent lots is what I'm asking about.
so guys, the ones that are.
Okay, let's get the actual building scales and heights, and we'll have a graph and we can see it.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all. That's my question. My question is to see what the adjacent heights are on a scale so we can see them tapering. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate information, but I'd like to be a part of this presentation. Those are my questions.
Great. I have 3 questions. So can you tell us a bit more about the materials used for the building? And I'll save the last 2 questions.
So for 3HB, again, still early design, so we don't have, it's just not at that level of design. This is just to analyze the environmental impacts of the overall generic program. For site K, the move away from glass was to include more metal window frames, metal paneling, to therefore soften the look and make it less flat.
Okay, thank you so much. And then your plans, can you tell us about your plans to build more schools in the project area? So I know this is under the community facilities in the draft of the scope of work, so.
So it'll be analyzed, the school seeking will be analyzed as part of the EIS, and they will take into account all the developments that are underway and proposed in this project. And the SCA will be, involving an interested agency involved, but they'll be consulted and they would say what the need for school seats are.
And SCA stands for?
I'm sorry, the New York City School Construction Network.
For everybody, thank you.
Yes, thank you, I apologize. So we rely on them to provide the determination of those needs as part of the environmental report.
Great.
And it'll be addressed as part of the project.
Great. And I know that we're still early on in the project planning stage, but for the retail storefront options, can we discuss what options are being explored at this time?
So I have, unfortunately, so I don't have any detail on 3HB as like I'm a broken record, but that is where we are on that project. For site K, we have the anchor cultural facility is shown in purple here. So we're working with the Climate Museum to develop a space for them, their first ever space. And then the entrance is in yellow. There is the residential entrance. As you round the corner, there's like a peach color there, sort of pinky peach. And that's the entrance to a fitness center, which you go in at the ground floor and then above is where the main bulk of that is. If we go to the other massing, you can see the south side of the building, which has, again, the light purple is the cultural. And then the dark purple there is, we're working with Emma's Torch, which is a community facility that provides training in the culinary field and would have a cafe presence as well as their their not-for-profit training that they do there, and presumably if we're in touch with the Javits Center, and they are really interested in the synergy of potentially using that for events at Javits. And then in the blue is the hotel, and that goes around the west side. So there's the hotel lobby, and we're exploring restaurant and cafe, and other food and beverage for the ground floor.
And you're exploring the outdoor area as well, right?
So the part of the streetscape plan would be, so that street here, you can see here's 35th Street, so that would be the pedestrianized street. So the frontages of the food and beverage would have access to apply for permits to use that for sidewalk activities. And obviously having limited auto use on that street would make it much more appealing.
Great, thank you.
I have two comments. One is, when you guys spoke with Dan in my office a while ago about figuring out a way in which the bid could get assessment surcharge, I would just point out that the same issue is going to come up with the 3 Hudson Boulevard.
Yes, understood.
So still people figure out how to get that.
What, can you describe what that issue is for the rest of us?
The bid runs on commercial real estate. It gets a certain surcharge from the assessment that's voted on by the owners of the property through the board. And the site K had promised to put into it because it abuts the park, and 3 Hudson Boulevard already at present is Morning property that would pay in. So if we even moved over, we would still want it to pay in.
They're already paying in today at a lesser rate because they're not developed.
They have a little bit done up, they don't pay a certain amount, it's not vacant, because they built about it.
Thank you.
So since the other building's involved now too, it's the same issue I want to.
Just want to make sure the bid gets their payments.
Yes,
Right.
we can maintain the park.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And one other question, I'm just curious, since we have a hotel and a big thing in the museum, where in that, for my purposes, running a park, where would the back of the house be?
So on that original, the other side of the, rendering, 36, and then the gray is the back of the house. Flip that
It's in the
to
next
that.
slide, though.
Can you flip to the next slide, Janine?
Even not for my operation people.
No, no. Go back, go the other direction.
Oh.
No,
It's
go
on-
forward. No, one more. There you go, stop there. Oh, nope. There we go.
Existing MTA air shaft building, which will remake, that's just
Mhm.
Denise.
Yeah.
And then the back of house is the loading is through that, at street grade, the gray rectangle. And then there's ramp up to parking and loading and additional back of house.
I want to jump in because of the active Amtrak sites and the MTA easement. It is a little difficult to incorporate that, like it's like the sellers are pretty much like spoken for, so that's why the configuration is like this.
Lower is highly constrained.
For all purposes, it's okay. We always worry about someone that's developing the back of the house from the world getting swept up.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Aaron?
Thank you for doing this and for presenting. Can you say a little bit about the community facility?
So the two tenants that we have, that we're working with are the, Climate Museum, which is a new, I mean, they don't have space yet. They're an existing not-for-profit, space that promotes the study and understanding of climate change. And, the other one is, so that's the primary one with that corner space and the upper levels. And
So
then
that's the cultural in here.
cultural.
Okay,
yeah,
and then the
cultural.
community.
And then the one that's labeled community facility is the Emma's Torch, which is the not-for-profit that trains people to work in the color.
I just wanted to get that.
Yes, yeah.
That's all for right now.
Thanks, Aaron. Brian?
So, thank you for the presentation. And knowing that these renderings are just massive studies, I'll focus on the numbers. I am concerned that this is the first project, like you said, above 12 FAR. I think there's a happy medium between 12 and 33 FAR. Understand that 3HB was zoned for 33 FAR, but that was for commercial. It's very different when you put residential at 33 FAR. And I know that in context of the conversation, housing crisis, we're always thinking about, and the word is in your document, maximizing housing. I don't know if unit count should always be the goal with these things. For context, we all know Manhattan West on 9th Avenue. Those towers are 933 feet tall. So now we're talking about doing a residential building of a similar mass to that building with over 2 sites over 4,000 units. And I am concerned about that massive amount of density. So it leads me to a question. Within those respective towers, is there any sort of makeup of what the mix of units will be? Studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
There is, and it's, in the draft scope. It is something that we have heard from your board about a lot, and we can and appreciate.
Really loudly.
The need and desire for family bedrooms, so not doing studio heavy build. We on site K, we have already advanced that conversation, for today, and we will get you the numbers where we are right now. I apologize, I don't have that with me. It is, and we have pushed further in that direction than the original proposal and have gone towards more families. And there would be an equal distribution from affordable and market rate for families. So it wouldn't be like all the affordable students, they have to be proportional.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that in the scope.
It's not in the
Or-
scope.
So let's make sure that comment goes in.
That has
Yeah.
been part of our briefings, not in the scope.
And so I think that's something that's kind of really important across both sites is I'd rather see a mix of units than always seeking to achieve the maximum number of units. I mean, we can still house as many New Yorkers with less units, but units that are 2 and 3 bedroom units that are for families. And I think that's really important at this location, is to have something that creates buildings that are more community based for the long term rather than transient, in that, you know, people who are in studios get married, have families, need more space in a studio. So I think that's an important question looking at this. Again, you know, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this, but I think that the height and massing of this is a little bit much. There's a happier medium. But I am concerned about what I'm learning here about 36th Street being back of the house. And I understand that's most probably the best size of this site. One thing that I know living on 36th Street is 36th Street aligns with on access with the entrance to the Javits Center. And that is a major thoroughfare for people coming and going to the Javits Center. 36th Street, despite 35th and 36th, yeah, and you see it daily. But 36th Street, when you Google it, that's the entrance up there. It's weird. Yeah. And so the board has always been like, and the neighborhood's always thought, we can corral people and get them to go down 37th. We've made improvements on 37th. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. People go down 36, they walk through Dyer. So that's something to keep in mind with 36th Street. I know the north side of the site is undeveloped. My other huge concern is, and I know this is part of your study, but I think it's something I really have to emphasize. 36th Street and 35th Street are access meters to the Lincoln Tunnel. They're literally exits from the tunnel. And so 36th Street to the east of these sites backs up because the Queens Midtown Tunnel is on the other side of the city. And so what we have is a constant gridlock traffic jam where emergency vehicles cannot get across town over there. And so I'm deeply concerned about, again, putting a population on these sites and not having ample street access to it. So I think, you know, and I know this board will demand study of traffic.
I think we'll come in a bit, especially in light of the Port Authority construction. Because that really,
Right.
analysis as part of the known background project.
So
Additional
no background process.
in the universe that we're.
In fact, Sanford, I'm hoping you're picking up on a lot of this.
Yeah.
So I just think that's something like both 35th and 36, because I'm concerned about emergency vehicles. Like, it's really sad how often ambulances just turn off their sirens on 36. They cannot move across the street. They're backed up all the way to Dyer, and that's a consideration. Then I know Rachel raised public schools, but we are also lacking in medical facilities on the west side. You know, and I think that has to be something that is factored in. Or we have Mount Sinai and St. Vincent's. Not much. Thank you.
Before we begin, I got feedback from an online audience that they can't see who's speaking. I think it's because the slide is taking up the entire screen. So if we're done referencing it, maybe we can pull it down, or do you think we need to keep it out? Janine, can you pull down the slide, please? Exit the presentation mode.
I'm not sure they're gonna be able to see us because last question, we don't on that system. We don't have a massive diagram for 3HP, right?
That's it.
There is one.
It's not it, but it's in there. It's in there.
Oh, great.
Invesco.
Thank you, Janine.
Good thing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because they can carry.
Push further.
San Daniel.
Yeah, a
That's the
couple.
least of our problems.
In the first slide, you talked about revitalizing the area, and I'm so pleased to hear that you want to revitalize Hudson Yards, because it is grotesque. My concern about this language sometimes is that it's not very specific. It's gonna be vibrant, it's gonna be green. I don't know what the hell that means, and this is very important. So when you talk about greening that little area, the more specific it could be, the better. And what do you mean by revitalizing?
To be specific, we're talking about two sites that have been vacant since 2005. So those are two underutilized sites that want to make sure that we're activated.
Okay. The billboard's gonna go right, that's not gonna stay.
Love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's a new billboard, JD. Doesn't exist today.
Billboard there.
Okay, that's the revitalization.
But to clarify, the billboard faces the Javits Center.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
A billboard installed anywhere will grow more billboard children.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
So that's a concern. The, don't know if I have this straight, but it's 5% moderate middle. What's that? Well, for me, moderate middle is just vital for this neighborhood. Vital. And we are increasingly getting market rate tech growth and low income. And I really feel we need moderate middle to keep the neighborhood going. That's my concern. The other thing is, are you involved in the Intrepid site as well? That's another, how many thousand? So we're adding thousands.
1,300, no? No, 1,100, or it's between 11 and 1,300 apartments.
but JD's point is,
Thank you. A lot of people, it's 10 blocks away, nevertheless, we're adding a small town. I think we talked about as this goes forward. Do you consider that? Do you consider the effect that's going to have on pedestrians, on the neighborhood? Is that part of your consideration? If it is, I don't hear it. And I'd like you to talk about that at some point, but that concerns me. And the climate museum, I assume that's not federal funds. Who is going to be funding this museum? I mean, is it a real estate?
They've been in existence for, as a board and seeking a space for a number of years. A member of their board is the former Javits president that recently retired. He's been very active and, yes, yeah. Alan Steele. And they, you know, they have fundraising goals and obviously are aware of our
Just a concern.
concerns.
So that's it. The moderate level, or we can get, I really think, and also, we need to talk about the increase in population in this area. So, I'm gonna deal with that, and talk about traffic, that area's a mess. Yeah. It's just a mess, and as Joe points out, we've got 10 years at least of a mess.
Gonna enlarge the Ninth Avenue sidewalk. Going this thing. You're gonna take away a lane of traffic on Ninth Avenue.
So.
Page report and report too.
Okay, James.
So I was also, I was also shocked with the billboard, but not the biggest focus. I go net, the traffic seems like I'm sharing, we should put that on your list of environmental concerns.
Yes. There's a tremendous amount of data that goes into, yeah, I guess it's the longest.
Sure, understood.
It's the most data
Yeah,
about drainage.
we read about them, we get them, so understood.
Yeah.
My question to that, including, and then also construction as well,
Yes.
because the amount of projects that are happening, which is great. I love housing. Are you guys willing, and if you want, to study further than the required designation? Like, we'd love to go further up, like, we have stuff happening at the cruise, lots of sites, so I know there's a requirement set, distance, but I'd love biggest commitment, because it all impacts traffic.
Yeah, that's exactly a perfect comment on the draft scope of work. Put in, and then we take that in and we respond when we can see how we can incorporate as much as we can. So that's exactly what the draft scope of work. That is scope.
Jump in on the illuminated sign, just flagging that it's something that the development team is considering, but that is pending further, conversation with the MCA, because it is their shadow, so we have to.
Yeah,
Just a note, I mean, I'm aware, we put it, one dive involved, we put it on an extended amount of space discussed, it's just never really studied, from my knowledge.
Oh, and radius.
So it's typical that you do a 1/4 mile radius. It's typical for us to ask for a 1/2 mile radius as the impacted zone, not 1/4 mile. Because we do have, like, Intrepid will be outside of the 1/4 mile of that.
Transit facilities.
But all of it, all of the impact. Low people on all of it. No, they oftentimes they don't. So you're right.
Great to get.
I think we might also push the point that this site is next to the access of the Lincoln Tunnel, and that, like, can we, because I agree with you, it should be 1/2 mile.
You done?
On some chapters, but not others.
So we get
Probably
Exactly.
Transportation.
Yeah, so let's go to Kevin next.
Thanks for the presentation, appreciate it. Couple of questions. There's a public scope meeting on Wednesday, March 18th, but the written comments can go until April 20th. By not submitting anything on the 18th, anybody in the community and community board in particular could still submit comments up until and through April 20th, right?
Absolutely, and they're all considered equal. There is no preference for earlier or in-person comments. So
At 5 p.m.
Not midnight. Not midnight.
The 30% affordable housing open to more? I think you've heard a number of colleagues here in Paul started meeting with the cumulative of impact. And the two sites together will have close to 4,000, or potentially will have close to 4,000 units. Say 2 people, see that opens. When we submit comments for the draft scope of work, often what we get back is the State Environmental Quality Review Act does not require this study. And we hope that you would take a position on that, because not only is it just this project, projects that are going on. will have, it has to have, logically speaking, an impact. And it's good. We want to have more affordable housing coming into the community. But it will have an impact. And we can do a whole litany of issues with schools, necessary for more classrooms, healthcare facilities, and go on and on. So we hope and look forward to, when we submit our comments, not getting back saying this is not required to do a study. So, part of that. And we also,
They're not, for the public record, they're nodding their heads.
Yes.
We are not hearing an audible agreement, but there's a visible.
So we have cumulative impacts and we look at fire safety, police safety, school safety. I'm just trying to process in my mind where in that analysis you get a lot of that's not required. I'm interested in
A lot of it.
But for example, do we need more school classrooms? Do we need more access to more medical facilities? Don't take me wrong. Bringing in more housing units, good, but we have to plan with the impact. Right? Talked about 2-bedroom. That's good. 3-bedroom. Okay, fair enough. Not just studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. Community benefits we talked about, and I think that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm just going to introduce Sanford though for a second, because we have sent this to Waterfront Parks, HHHS co-chairs, and to Transportation Committee co-chair. And Sanford is now the new leading expert on the Transportation Committee on ULURPs and draft EIS. Is that correct?
The title.
So,
We did do an exercise where we distributed like areas of expertise of the transportation committee, but actually that was not me.
but you're here now.
Penn Station is which is a large area. So you're right about Penn Station.
Yeah, but transportation issues.
Yeah. So I guess I'll say first, I do like that this is next to the 7 train stop. We want to build a lot more on 11th Avenue, but one of the more challenging things is that 11th and 12th are just further from all the subway stops. But this is not. This is actually like on top of one block from a subway stop.
No, it's on top of it.
On top of it.
That's true. Yeah. From the perspective of walking out the door, it is one block potentially, but it is literally on top of it. So that I really like about this project. One thing I wanted to ask about is the sidewalks. Do you have I think to support this, volume of people, there will need to be some widening of the sidewalk. I know there is the shared street will also provide some additional pedestrian capacity, but the sidewalk itself will need to be widened to some degree.
They have to get there.
And so do you have any numbers at this point? I didn't see any presentation on what the sidewalk will be.
The shared street, you are right, would essentially function as something of a widened sidewalk for 30th Street. We're in early stages of discussing that with DOT. Would be a curbless street, essentially. So it's really pedestrian forward and really prioritizes different mobility other than cars. So that would be a big benefit on the pedestrian side. In terms of the frontages on the remaining lots, we would the next we'll look at what the requirements are and where we are in relation to that.
Yeah, which streets are gonna have a front door on them?
Well, on 3HP, it directly abuts the park. There isn't a street there. It's like as wide on the sidewalk as you can be, because it's just sidewalk. And the entrance for Site K is on that same frontage, so there is the Hudson Boulevard street there, but it's obviously a very little used street because it does sort of dead end.
3HP does hold the park 8 feet.
That's over the parking feet into the lot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's important. Is that part of the zoning?
Yeah, just building something important to think about is that right now the pedestrian experience on 11th and 12th is pretty good compared to 8th or 9th, and we want it to stay good. And yeah, another thing, I see something on parking in this slide deck. I think probably the transportation committee is not in favor of adding large amounts of parking because it will draw more traffic into the area, and there's already plenty of traffic. from, like, the Hudson Tunnel is obviously necessary, like, people need to take the Hudson Tunnel, but we probably don't want additional, just large amounts of local traffic. So do you have numbers on how many park spaces would be, and would those be for the residential or for the hotel, and what would be the reason for requiring?
They are definitely not required. Proposal. They are each 100 spaces in the site.
Okay.
And they are called accessory parking, meaning they are not public parking garages. They are for the residents or the hotel, the uses on site.
Okay, I mean, yeah, those are not enormous numbers compared to the size of the project,
But you have this,
but they will add just marginally.
but the Hudson Yard settlement has to come into account here, right? Parking settlement.
I am not aware of the
Okay, so speak to Christine Bertet, who brought the legal action against them. This New York City on DOT, there is a cap on the number of spaces in the entire Hudson Yards area. So we cannot create new spaces. You can reallocate spaces, but that is that's a court settlement. So we should say for having.
Does that cover this area?
Oh, it is this area.
Okay.
And so I mentioned Christine specifically. Yeah, yeah, we should definitely send that to you so you can see how that works, because it's dead specific.
Yeah, those are my main questions.
Thank you. Could I ask something about the parking, the accessible parking? Can you hire a parking operator, right? Is that right? And
there would be someone operating it, but it would not be public parking, meaning it would only be for
Residents or
hotel.
I've got to find out if you can even do it.
Yeah.
just have
Yeah, you can find it.
if it is for people in the building, it's expensive, right? So the people can afford it are probably the market rate. So there's no sliding.
So just 200 spots for 4,000. No,
Rachel?
Yeah, I would like to piggyback off of what Jenny said, because as much as we're pushing for affordable housing as part of the project, and this is not necessarily common to the scope of work, but something for us to consider is when we're pushing for more affordable units of various compositions, we also want the amenities, the stores, the grocery options. We want that area to be affordable, livable for those residents and everyone else. I'm thinking when I walk into Hudson Yards, you see a lot of glitzy, glamorous storefronts. Like, I personally wouldn't shop there. It's not my first choice, but I would like for it to be an open, inviting, inclusive environment for everybody. So just wanted to put that out there because you raised a very practical point.
I don't know what in terms of how that would become like a specific recommendation, but I would go for sure like the composition of the retail is important to us, and not being the kind of retail you see in like the primary Hudson Yards mall.
Yeah, you need to eat, which is an issue when we bring a small town. Okay, so a couple of things. One is, let's just say that the billboard is questionable at best, and I think you're going to get a lot of people saying no on that. The idea of a flashing sign and moving sign, it's one thing to have it on Javits, but to have it over, trust me, the next developer in the room will say, and point two, right? So I think that's a huge issue. I do want to note that this is basically a small town that's being built inside two buildings. And this is a social experiment too. We've never done this to this degree in the city of New York, anywhere, right? It's like we're developing a vertical Parkchester or, like these kind of, co-op city kind of thing, right? I think we really got to think about, first of all, these need to be not high-rise dormitories. There's a huge issue in the city of New York. It's all about numbers and metrics and build. We're actually in our neighborhood dealing with the future of the soul of the city. What is this about? I sat in a room like this a couple of years ago, Paul, in which the Manhattan director of city planning said flat out, well, if there's certain buildings with city of yes, you can have 1,000 units. You guys did one. And in fact, he said, what's the problem with that? I wanted to say, step beyond your moment in life here and see what happens later. That there's all kinds of families that pull together and people are in apartments, sharing apartments, different generations. We cannot be building a city for a transient population, because that is not stability. And in this case, we weirdly turned to the state of New York, has always been impossible to work with. And except for the last number of years.
So they joined the team.
We have Bayview, right? How many communities come and say, please bring us supportive housing for mentally ill and, serious stuff. So this is a soul of the city project. And the misstep here can be the governor, the mayor, everybody saying, wow, the press conferences, look how many apartments we built here. And all these apartments are going to be, we know it's going to be majority market rate, but how many more can be leveraged? And look at this as your new Mitchell-Lama site to do something else that brings into both Site K. And by the way, I'm going to call them 411th Avenue and 418 11th Avenue. Nobody knows these sites. They're on the map of Hudson Yards from 2004. They're not used by anybody except some very abstruse planners. And let's bring them down to people, right? And I believe you don't live on Site F and you don't live on Site G, right? It's an address. So let's start referring things like that so it anchors them somewhere in our district. Figuring out how this works, you need some kind of food store located in the campuses of these two buildings in some way, and it's got to be bigger than a deli, right? 4,000 apartments, even a lot of ordering in, people are still going to need to buy a can of tuna fish, right? That's how it works. I support Bob on this whole thing with the bid assessment. We got to work that out because that's part of the basic stuff of Hudson Yards makes part work. So that's got to be codified 100%. We have the highest market rents in the city in this district. That's what the current data comes back to us. So if any place we could end up doing more affordability and larger apartments, it's going to work here. It's not going to work along Island City. It's not going to work other places where you may do something. I think you must push the envelope here to get a different kind of thing to happen. Coming up tonight, some of the streetscape issues I had not thought about before. The shared streets and stuff, you have to be careful that the dining activating the streets, we don't take the sidewalks, right? Hudson Yards had a specific requirement to widen sidewalks at a certain location. And with the changes in the sidewalk cafes, those widened sidewalks, in some cases, on West 35th Street, that Gray Winds restaurant, took the widened sidewalk that was put in specifically as a mitigation for the pedestrian issues that are going to come from the increased density. So I think this is an important issue to look at. How do we do it? But I'm going to ask you that whole thing approaching the Javits and how you get there, Brian. I think you got to look at what, in working with other agencies and parts of the state, we have to get people to this major event hall, right? So look at maybe 35th and 36th and 37th Streets. The port's in the middle of doing the major work there or changing some of the stuff. Let's be comprehensive and look at those three corridors, because I live on a block where when the auto show is on, you do want to run the other direction, okay? Or Comic-Con.
Comic-Con, I was going to say Comic-Con.
There is just not enough sidewalk happening. So especially when you get west of 10th, we have to figure out a way to make this work better. And also directional, the whole point. I want to go to the meat and potatoes here, right? I was in a meeting today and I was describing this project to sort of brief a bunch of neighbor people about it. They had a great line. Oh, we've always wanted a climate museum, right? Well, it's a great thing, but that's not our need. Our local needs are not about the latest and most fashionable culinary training and climate museums, right? We need to carve out space in these projects. And whether they want it now or not, or you take it, you build it, and you mothball it, we need to get an FDNY station and possibly a precinct station, right? And it may not be for this go around, but I sat in those rooms in 2004 and 5, where it was, we're going to figure that out and we're going to do whatever. And we have nothing, right? The biggest population increase here on the west side is what is like 20,000. It's some crazy number. that I had to do research for recently. We have increased the population through the rezonings. We have not built additional basic city services, not climate museums, but like a spot to eventually put a fire station. And we did this in other buildings, like Lincoln, like when other buildings were built, they built out something and left it and mothballed it for a while, right? And the things that we respond to, with the number of larger apartments that we're pushing for, there's going to be a school seat need. We know that the 650 seats coming in one day before we're all dead and on the Western Rail Yards was already programmed in to say that was meeting a requirement as per the growth then. With this growth, Site K, Intrepid, this one on 34th Street, we're going to need more school seats. And this is the perfect location, it's a perfect idea in Empire State Development, City of New York, SCAA, whatever, figure out a way to get a block of space here. Because it's weird, there's leftover FAO, right? And the last piece is our homegrown industries theaters, all these small theaters. We actually do this for Site K. So I think we're going to actually do this for one of these over here, because it's
Yes, for Intrepid.
Intrepid. Because, and these are the small black box theaters that are the beating heart of the theater industry in New York, that provide the theaters and people can take risks and things to have happen. And they're not expensive. The best part is they're not expensive spaces to build. Now we're supposed to get about 16,000 square feet on the Western Rail Yards for various theater and cultural uses. That's coming right behind the school. Okay. So you will actually be built sooner than the Western Rail Yards. But they will. They will. So I'm just saying, yes, that's what the last piece I want to say is, and I know everything's being privately financed, but look at how other parts of the state or city can add in here to solve the local and citywide need. Here. So I hope I speak to Gabriella or Angela. I'm trying to pull it all together and say that we can't be great waving a flag of more units without building a community around it and building stability for a community. So 4,000 units, and I got to walk 5 blocks of bike to tuna fish. My kids got to go down to PS 33, which is going to be overwhelmed next to construction for 10 years in Chelsea Mansion. Right? Maybe not the best.
Okay. I'm going to call on anybody else in the public who wants to ask questions. Janine, if anybody on Zoom wants to ask a question, raise your hand, and Janine can migrate you over to speak to us. Hopefully that works audibly for us.
Can I ask one while you're waiting for that?
Yeah.
Sorry if I missed this in the presentation, but where is all the delivery and trash?
There's a
going.
That's
Okay, but making sure that was, yeah. Good.
The other thing.
Okay, I brought over Christine and I'm gonna bring over Kyle. Can you see Christine?
Christine?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear her?
Great.
Allie, you could.
Okay, just one second, Christine.
I'm going to try something else there. Hopefully it works.
Too much or too little? Can you hear me now? No. You can, but then I can't hear you.
I can hear you, but I don't think they can.
They can't. I think they can hear me, but I can't hear them.
Okay, I can't hear them either now. Then I have to switch around with the mics.
All right.
We hear you.
Ah, here it is.
Okay. Go ahead, Christine.
Hi. Good to see you, Angel. How are you? I just wanted, a lot of my concerns have been covered. I wanted to ask about this, back of the house that you have on 36th Street. Is that also going to serve the building between 35 and 34? How does that work?
Christine?
Hello? Yes.
No. The answer is no.
So where is the back of the house on for 34 to 35?
They do not know that yet.
Oh, because that is the same block on which there is going to be a hotel, which is going to need taxi and buses parking or loading and unloading. So not only you have a back of a house, but you have that other constraint. And I'm really interested into how is that going to work. I think that's it. You have covered a lot of things. The other point I would make is eventually we need definitely a bigger food store and probably a medical facility. We don't have any medical facility until 46th Street. And I think we should have, there is a private one, which is probably very expensive, but we should have a place where people can drop off and do their, their tests and this and that, the simple stuff. This is very far away from the main corridors, right? And yeah, and an NYPD facility would be very helpful because this is getting to be very difficult. So thank you so much.
I think we have Maria Ortiz up next.
Ooh, there's an echo. Can you all hear me okay? I'm on the bus, so I don't know if you can hear me well.
We can hear you. When we speak, there's an echo, so we are muting and not answering questions.
I just wanted to say that I've been listening in and I agree with almost everything everyone has said. Paul, Rachel's points, Christine, Joe, Stanford, everything that was raised, I think are really good points to consider and good questions. The only thing that I would want to raise or highlight even more is the size of the units and considering more families, just having more larger units. I think that's really important, especially when we're talking about affordability, permanently affordable units. And that's it. Thanks.
Maria, next, Kyle. And as I said, we're having some technical challenges, so you can ask questions, but we're not going to have lengthy answers.
Okay, hi everybody. I hope I can ask a question that's completely off of that topic, but I had called in a few weeks ago and Jesse got back to me. I'm a Hell's Kitchen resident and a history lover, and a bunch of my friends, Hell's Kitchen folks and other village folks, had come up to go to the final days of Barbetta the other day, the restaurant in the classic townhouses on Restaurant Row. You're probably familiar. There had been some rumor that it seems like it might be true that the homes, the four of them combined together, the townhouses, were possibly donated to Rockefeller University. And we were just all a bit concerned because we love Restaurant Row and the vintage look of the area. And those original homes are very gorgeous and beautiful. Of course, there's an empty parking lot right next to them. So we were all scared that there might be potential for them all being torn down and lost and drastically changing the whole look of Restaurant Row. I know there's a height restriction west of 8th Avenue, it seems, so maybe that might help. When I talked to Jesse, he was saying that I might...
Well,
yes.
I'm going to interrupt for a second.
Sure.
This is not on our agenda tonight, but it will be in the near future, I suspect.
Okay.
So bring it up at another meeting and I'll make note.
Okay, do you think it should be the next one I can look for?
Come back, right?
Jesse responded, and I'll follow up with you separately. Right now, this is not our topic.
Okay.
So let's follow up later. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now, can you hear us? There we go. That's what. Okay, Janine, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you.
You cannot bring your.
And your volume up on yours. You're right, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have one person do this, 5 of us doing it.
Can you just say something one more time? Sorry.
Sure, can you hear me now? Is the volume good?
Yeah, you know what?
We got the workaround. This volume has to come up. I'm no longer touching it.
That's the most we can do.
Okay, I think we're back to the way we were before. All right, now committee discussion, as we know. I think that the overall theme I'm hearing, and I think Joe summarized it best, is you're building a village, right? This is not just new housing units. You're building a village that will require public safety, education, school, like all of the components that you want in a small town have to come onto these sites, is I think what we're hearing from this conversation. It has to be a mix of units, mix of affordability, accessible to all. So thinking from that framework, we're going to want to look at how does this scope of work help us get them to that point, right? So the quarter mile versus half mile radius, I think that's a very common request for us, is to the impact zone is larger than is standard, because you're going to have Western Rail Yards, you're going to have Intrepid, you're going to have Port Authority. Even the impact of the NYCHA development in Chelsea is going to impact these sites. So how do we move people around in our neighborhoods is going to be a big concern. One of the topics that didn't come up tonight, but often does come up, is sustainable and renewable energy on site. This village can produce its own electricity and power for its own residents. So maybe let's look into some solutions so that when we talk about greenhouse gas and relying on power from other sources, this village can create its own electricity for its own people. So let's look into some options as to how we can make that happen. And then in terms of, Aaron, you raised it slightly, is the internal structures of this village need to be internal to this village and not impact people passing through this village. So your Con Ed vaults, your deliveries and receptions, your trash recycling and composting need to be internalized to your buildings and not expand onto the sidewalks where the Javits Center convention attendees are passing by. Your village has to operate independent of the impact on those sidewalks. So that's sort of the concept that I'm trying to address here. All right. So that's the framework I would put this. Now, for the committee, we have chapters. Divide and conquer. So, Kevin, to your point, the public comments, people can go to the public hearing on March 18th, which is next week, but we have until April 20th. But even April 20th falls, we don't have 2 board meetings. We have 1 board meeting between now and then, which means we have to have this committee's recommendations to the board at the next board meeting. So that's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, March 31st is our full board.
So we're going to ask that. Is that the next board meeting? March 31st?
No, it's April 2nd.
April 2nd.
No, April 1st. April 1st.
Oh, but I think the deadline.
The day change.
Tuesday, March 31st.
Oh, Passover.
Can you say the first part again?
Rachel was right. But also keep in mind, the letter has to be done by Friday of the weekend before the meeting so that we have time for the board members to review it before the meeting.
At least 5 days.
Yeah.
That can happen.
So the request to everybody is to help us by taking 2 or 3 chapters, and many of you, we've all been through this before.
Yes.
So many of you know which chapters you love the dearest. Go through, think about this framework of building a village and look at what they're proposing they're going to study in this draft scope and say, hold on a second, you're not studying the impact of this. Hold on, so each chapter, think about public safety, education, transportation, all of those components. And if people could take chapters.
I know
I'm gonna go, we'll start.
And per usual, as a process point, we have extended the request to our affected committee co-chairs of other CD4 committees. So for example, environmental, we'll have the Waterfront Parks Environmental Community look at it, so they'll provide input as well, but let's divide.
Hold on, let me. Hold.
Space and socioeconomic, got it.
I was going to do exactly that. Let's go through in order so that I can write them all down so I can remember who I have to chase. Land use, zoning, and public policy. Did I see Maya's hand go up in the air for that? Awesome, thank you, Maya.
Maya and Joe, thank you, Maya.
Socioeconomic conditions is Bob. Community facilities.
I'll do that.
Aaron, awesome, thank you. Open space, Bob. Shadows. I'm gonna take like the height of it.
I'm gonna do visual design and resources, and I could do shadows in that, because that's gonna be a big part of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Brian. Historic and cultural resources. Frank. Hazardous materials, that's a Kevin category, I can feel it. Water and sewer infrastructure, I think Katie and Marty are gonna be on that one. From WPE. Solid waste sanitation, same thing, we'll put Katie and Marty on that one. Energy. We want to tackle this notion of doing energy production and on-site work.
Well, it's also a little bit Katie Marty, isn't it?
Maybe. Maria is saying she wants help too. Transportation, who would want to tackle sanitation?
Lead expert.
The lead expert. I'm gonna put Christine's name on here just for fun. Thank you, Christine. Air quality, that's gonna be a Katie Marty thing. Greenhouse gas and emissions, I'm gonna do Katie and Marty on that, unless somebody objects. Noise. James, you'll tackle noise. Public health is Kevin. Neighborhood character. Joe, you're gonna do neighborhood character. Construction. James, construction, and yeah, okay. Effects on disadvantaged communities.
We'll take it. Oh, thank you, Aaron.
Aaron's hand went up. I can see Aaron's hand. Alternatives, Joe and I will work on that, Rachel, because I already have some ideas on that. Mitigation, we won't really know mitigation until we know what the negatives are, right? So it's hard for us to offer mitigation opportunities for something that we don't know whether we studied. Is that a correct assumption? I'm looking over at you too.
Well, maybe things like the streetscape of the schools could be mitigation.
You know, there's also.
I'll do it to me.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. If we're gonna put a 4,000 person village, which would likely have more like 8,000 people. Hudson River Park is a vital resource, which is a block away. And one of the big things that has been a constant conversation is how do we get people across the West Side Highway over there? And Pier 76, which is also being redeveloped. I'm wondering if there's any leverage that we can get out of this project to assist with that.
Do you see a chapter that we can ask them to study that?
What chapter space? Open space. That's it. Sorry, Bob. Open space.
Can you look into how to access Hudson River Park as part of the movement of bodies across the West Side Highway? Great. All right, anything I'm missing on this topic? Anybody? I don't see any hands coming up from anybody else either online. Great. Then I think we're done with this agenda item. Thank you guys for.
Should we give everyone a deadline?
Deadline.
like our internal deadline to send the comments to the co-chairs.
Comments to the co-chairs.
We wanted.
So we'll probably send around our, one of our prior comments to the statement of work. I'm sorry, scope of work.
Yes, the SOW, yeah.
We're gonna want this by the we wanna have it done by the 27th. Knowing that, you know, I have a full-time job, and so working weekends on these things is better for me. If we can all shoot for March 20th, which is a week from Friday.
Not have mine by then, because I'm leaving.
You will have them before you leave.
Yeah.
I love Bob's commitment to the deadline. Everybody else okay?
So no later than Friday, 3/20, 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern. No, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Saving.
Yeah, because no matter how many times we send out the format to everybody, it all comes in a different formatting, and to get it combined into one cohesive document and thematically aligned. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Great to see you guys. You're building a new village. We're going to pick up this new theme.
Thank you guys for having us.
All right. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed our new office.
Do we think about also designating experts on certain things now that like we have, you know, James is like, I did noise, I'm the noise expert. You don't want to be the noise expert. You voluntold or do you volunteer for certain topics?
Well, okay, in transportation, it's because some of like Christine and some of the other folks who've been like longstanding are gonna be mandatory, term limited.
I know it's part of the knowledge transfer, yeah.
Each person in transportation become an expert in like one listed area, because that is important. And then each person to both to educate themselves and educate the committee gives a presentation on what their area of expertise is. So mine is actually not DNS's, there's a different person doing assign that. Mine is like Penn Station and Gateway. So I gave a presentation on Penn Station and Gateway, all the fun about that. I think it makes a lot of sense for transportation because transportation has like a lot of discrete issues. Land use I think is a little bit trickier because there's a lot of issues, but they kind of every project involves every issue as opposed to transportation. Just about road phase and then another phase.
But if anyone wants a fancy business card.
Yeah, but it is important. Thanks for bringing that up, Rich, because it is an important thing to consider that a number of us are going to be gone in 2 years' time. And so a lot of the institutional knowledge will be evaporating. So if people want to start saying, I want to learn more about this topic, you will then become the expert on that topic because we'll coach you through that. You can become the lead when those topics come up. So let's think about that, and in the future meetings we can put more structure to it. All right. Thanks, Rachel. Okay. Next item on the agenda is just an update on the West 47th Street situation.
So the good news is we made some progress. Yes. The board had a briefing with the owner. Remember, this is the legal thing of demolition. We'll struggle, went through the special permit process, got the special permit approved, and then we have the collapse of the scaffolding in Mortal Ponte Park. So we had an odd meeting, I will say first, where the owners presented a new facade for the building, post special permit review of approval. And we noted to them that you can't change something that has been approved by the city council entirely. Right, Rachel and I were there on that discussion, very odd discussion. And then we spent a lot of time talking back and forth, and they wanted to show us the new facade. We finally said, we cannot look at a new facade. That horse has left the barn. We're now dealing with how you're proceeding and how we're managing the park next door. Now, on the facade part, I want to note that we then got a letter, an email saying they understood, it took a couple of days, and they are proceeding with the approved plans. We also talked to them how to expedite the work in Ramona Ponte Park. And they notified us that they had to get approval from Parks first, and then take that Parks approval and go to DOD for the sidewalk shed to be rebuilt. And Parks have requested that it be deeper into Ramona Ponte Park to protect the plague, right? So I was tasked with then calling Max Goodstein to talk to him about how to get that to happen. And here's what I will tell you, this is the most remarkable of the Parks Department. Max Goodstein, our former board member, but in his capacity as step with the Parks Department. I called Max Goodstein and had a whole conversation with him about this, and I'm not joking. It was the wrong Max Goodstein. And that person asked questions about the developers and the park. No, this was a phone number I had already. It was the most bizarre moment because I had a whole thing of these people
Oh, some random friend of yours named Max Goodstein.
Remarkable was when they tried to figure this out in person, and I was
sitting there.
we did not
Like,
talk about it.
A conversation we do, he kept saying, I didn't talk to him, he said, here's your number. It was a 917 number, not a 914. I'm not kidding. I had a full conversation about resolving this matter.
I'd like a prank call on TikTok.
So then Max, and I followed up. You were there, right? After the board meeting. We talked about it, and he says that they have made, that Parks has made progress, and now he and I will keep in touch as soon as that's done, because our goal was to escalate this to the DOB commissioner. You expedite the approval for the revised sidewalk shed in Ramona Ponte Park. And of course, everyone's very concerned because the weather's going to turn and kids are going to be out in the park and they can't use it. So you heard a lot of people testify at our meeting.
It was covered in the CBS something as well.
Really?
He was interviewed on that one at a talk.
There we go.
So the facade is moving forward.
It's not as resolved.
Resolved.
They are doing.
And they're doing what we had previously discussed, or are they revising?
That they now understand
That
that they must, was approved by Committee Board 4, City Planning Commission, and City Council.
That, because when I walked by, I thought the facade looked a little funky.
The facade, it was stopped. They're
going back to their plan. Okay. The second question I have is on the scaffolding. I seem to recall there was an issue with the kids in the playground climbing onto the scaffolding because they could climb from the slide and the
the scaffolding is going to extend further, and the Parks Max, the real Max Christine told me is having them install a chain link fence. So you're not going to be able to get over to that scaffold at all. It's going to extend much further into the park during the scaffolding erection period, right?
So they need scaffolding to erect the scaffolding. And
No, they need protection to erect the scaffolding, and the sidewalk right to the park will be going further west and covering a good part of the playground because they don't want any of the kids anywhere near this at all.
so what does that mean for the park and
That's where we can.
ability to open it?
So it's not going to be opened at all until, because of the collapse, it's very strictly monitored that this is being done. First, Park signs off saying, here's what they're comfortable with and the extent of the scaffolding, how it's done. And then that is then sent to DOB for their review. Once it gets to DOB, we have already made, we've already moved toward discussions with the Commissioner's Office to get expedited review of this. So therefore, you have to have review and then you have construction. So we're talking, I'm thinking this is not going to get moved ahead. If Parks moves quickly, I would think the earliest is the middle of April, realistically. Because we're on March 10th, it's going to take a couple of weeks to go through that process at DOB. And then also, they do have a contractor in place and a reputable contractor, not a contractor that did the scaffolding that collapsed.
Was the playground will still be open?
It's not open now.
It'll be closed.
Hold on, we have a Max Goodstein who is racist.
I want to hear.
Can we?
Give me more of an update. The real Max Goodstein.
Janine, can you move Max over for us?
Yeah, he's coming over.
Thank you.
Hey, do you guys hear me?
Yeah, oh, we got it.
Why don't we just be quiet? Let's just be quiet. Everyone, just be quiet. Go ahead, Max.
Hey, this is the real Max Goodstein. Hey, so I'm speaking on behalf of Parks right now, just to be completely clear. So I saw this on the agenda, I just wanted to join. We actually approved the permit to Kelvin today, the owner of the building. So the Parks permit is approved. There's some stipulations in it. So more of the park will be protected by chain link fence, as you guys were saying. So around the entire big play structure, that will now be closed off with 8-foot high. We call it movable chain link fence, but it's not movable by the public. It's movable by the contractor, so it doesn't damage the safety surface. So there's no posts that go into the safety surface. It's actually on sandbags. So our permit is approved. The additional stipulations of the construction fence around the play structure is in place. This site will be closed until DOB deems the site safe, whatever that might be. But they're also moving very expeditiously. We've been in close contact with a lot of their people actually over the past few weeks. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them as well on behalf of Parks.
Thank you.
It'd be great if you could just send the board your conditions, because as we also push from our end with DMV, so we understand them and know them. So
You know, the permit is public record. I mean, I could probably study the permit. I say get it cleared by our council. But if that doesn't happen, you just submit a simple FOIL request and we'll submit it right to you guys.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Great. I do have one point. That's such an important playground, because children about everything.
You might say.
So we need to move it as quickly as possible. And secondly, is there an alternate space that we could advise the parents to go to? Max, did you hear that question?
I heard it a little bit.
The question is if there's an alternative space these kids could go to that's nearby, and we can start directing people to a secondary playground that's better for them.
Yeah, I mean, Matthews Palmer's pretty close, right? And that has similar play equipment that Ramona
And
Ponte
similar
does.
scaffolding.
Well, that scaffold is coming down on the March 31st, so that's another issue. But that is coming down March 31st.
March 31st?
Yes, and that means that adult fitness area will be reopened. But anyway, the play structure is open at Matthews Palmer. So that's a site, obviously McCaffrey, and then of course Hell's Kitchen. But you know, maybe we could put up a sign. That's a good idea. Maybe we could put up a sign at the park directing parents and kids to other sites.
Yeah, some signage would be helpful. Thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's just some rough time frame that will be closed until it's deemed safe by DOB. I think that's very important for people to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And our permit is until, so you guys can write this down. Our end date for this permit is June 1, 2026.
Got it.
So after that date, you know, Parks can assess liquidated damages to the contractor, to the building owner if they are late. And our liquid damages are no joke. They're much more money than DOB's fines are, which, you know, their fines are like, I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, $1,000 every month that the scaffolding's up past the permit date. Our fines is $1,000 every single day the scaffolding is up in the park past its permit end date. So we have we can levy pretty serious fines here. So June 1, 2026 is the end date of our permit. Of course, he could request an extension if needed, but we're going to be pretty firm in this date just because it is the summer season. But you know, the spray shower, which is our goal here, the spray shower in this park will be open this entire time.
Max, thank you so much for getting this information, because the fact that you approved it today means that now we can all, you've been in action already, we can also push from the political end to make this thing happen.
Yep.
So Hell's Kitchen Park may be a better alternative than Matthews Palmer. It's a straight shot across
47.
Right down 47th.
That works too. We want to encourage as much use though in Matthews Palmer as possible. We love people using that park. But yes, absolutely.
It's about the benefit for the kids and the ease of the kids. Sorry, Max, not for the benefit of the Parks Department.
Well, I mean, it's on 46th and 45th. It's pretty close as well.
You can list both. You can list both.
Yeah.
Turning to after, it might actually be more convenient.
Yeah, okay. And people in the neighborhood know, I mean, this is.
Yeah.
But it's good to,
Come on.
it's good for,
Yes.
it's good that we're showing that it's the Department of Buildings, the scaffolding is being addressed, and we're offering alternatives. And
exactly.
That's, you know, public and positive comment.
Yep.
Thank you for making.
Thanks, Max. That's great.
Yeah.
And from here on, you are the real Max Goodstein, as far as I'm concerned.
Is there anything we can do about this now? aside from pushing DB or, okay.
There's the best news.
All right, I have to go back to item 1. You know what I forgot to do?
Vote.
Take a vote. So I'd like to entertain a motion that we proceed with a letter with a list of recommendations for the draft scope of work coming out of this committee to be voted on at full board. Kevin, I recognize you. Sanford, I see the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Pete,
I can.
vote no. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Any PNEs? Bob is PNE. Thank you all. With that,
We would, oh wait, Irish Art Center?
So just a request.
I don't know, that's the phase 2.
Yes, so when this committee worked through the whole Irish Arts Center back in, when was it, Bob?
In 2011, JD was chair. It lasted into other chairs, but we.
Well, it was 2016, so the 100th anniversary of the.
We started.
2020, yeah. So, the board enabled them to acquire both the Cyber Tire Garage on 11th Avenue and then the small original home on First Street, along with a sliver of the future of the Juan Alonso Garden extension, right? So I will note that they have built the first phase entirely. The Juan Alonso Garden extension is something that's called a housing project. And that went to Irish Arts first. Now it's becoming a condominium project, believe it or not. Condominium meaning just the land. Irish Arts versus Juan Alonso. But they have now gone to a major fundraising campaign and secured funding for phase 2. So I just want to note that they'll be coming, like to have them come for April. They are meeting with the adjacent tenants and folks who are immediately there, and then want to do a public presentation on phase 2. And it's quite a remarkable.
What closer to the Irish Arts Center?
Meeting? I think if we can get over this, shouldn't move away from this technology if we don't have to. So I wanted to announce that because I didn't want people to be surprised to know something's happening.
all right, something to look forward to. That's not a ULURP and not a draft EIS.
It's kind of like finishing up. Like we always knew they're going to come back, but here they are. Took a moment.
Anyone else have another motion they would like to make for this evening? I heard a motion from Bob and a second from Mary. Thank you all very much. Welcome.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Janine.
Thank you for surviving.
Thank you, Janine. Janine, we're going to leave you a list of notes on the table of.
Okay, yeah, we might call you tomorrow just to kind of go over what went wrong.